Okay, so welcome to the Dreamforce 2024 tour, the Architect Meetup, and I'm welcoming Samir Padokar and Sue Xiao doing the securing, governing, and managing APIs for AI initiatives. This is the session they ran on Wednesday at Dreamforce 2024.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. You can see my screen, right? All right.
Looks good.
Okay. All right. Let me run this in the. Okay. All right. Cool. Um, so again, let's get started. Ryan, thanks, Ryan, for the intro, and welcome everybody. For folks who came at Dreamforce, were not able to attend, we'll go through this session again. For folks who didn't come, again, the idea behind this is the what we plan to do with this Dreamforce to you is bring a lot of those sessions that we did at Dreamforce back to the MuleSoft community, right? In a way that you can digest the same content and ask us more questions, which if you were there at Dreamforce, you were not able to, or you couldn't attend the session, or here, like in a different fashion, like, you can ask it. And then also this also gives us an opportunity to dive a bit more detail into the topic. So super excited to talk to you today. What we're going to do is I'm going to cover the session that I had was about securing, governing, and managing APIs to fuel your AI initiatives. And the key aspect about this was how can you adopt AI with securely within your organization. So that's kind of like the key topic here. So let's get started. What we'll do is I'm going to start with this session, cover the topic, and what we'll do is towards the end, then we'll open it up for questions. And then as we go through those questions, like if you want me to go to a particular slide, I mean, it's much more like, let me and Sue know about it. Okay. So that's kind of like what we will do today. Again, quick forward-looking statement. We'll talk about new products, capabilities, but please make your purchasing decisions on the products available today. Uh, Quick intro about me, Samir Parulkar, product marketing here at Salesforce, focused on MuleSoft API management technologies. I've been with MuleSoft now for almost like more than 2.5 years now, and spoken with you many times now. I did this session with Uma, who's the product manager for API gateways in MuleSoft. So I forgot to include Sue. So Sue, I will add your name here. Sorry for that. But do you want to give a quick intro about yourself?
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm Sue. I'm a technical product marketing manager. I focus on API management, and yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. So what we will do is, right, so I'm going to go through the session slides, and then Sue is going to do a quick demo. The demo is something that we couldn't do at Dreamforce due to the timing of the theater session. But here, definitely that gives us an opportunity. So we'll go through that. So first, I will cover the topic, and then towards the end, Sue will then do a quick demo of a couple of our AI policies. Um, what to expect from today's session? What we'll cover is we'll cover the world of AI is a world of APIs, right? APIs are at the foundation to deliver this AI powered services. So we're going to cover that. Second aspect is, but yes, that's true. But now with the increased adoption of AI, what is also increasing is there is increased threats and vulnerabilities, right? So how do you build a layer of trust to secure these APIs? Let's create that secure foundation. We'll cover that. And lastly, how can MuleSoft help you, right? How can you protect and govern access to those AI APIs, and what are the MuleSoft capabilities that we provide from an API management perspective, as well as integration to help you now secure and govern those APIs. So we're going to cover this. So again, three key aspects around this. Let's do this. All right. So before I begin, right? So again, we've been using APIs for many years. It's not new. We kind of like the key aspect about APIs is about to, I mean, mainly to hey, it started with, hey, use APIs to connect data, connect applications together, or interface with those applications, or share data between those applications, right? That's how APIs actually started more than 10 years back or 15 years back, right? But APIs actually evolved to now provide more of a higher level business services, right? Digital services, we can call digital, and across different verticals. For example, when you think about e-commerce and payments, right? Unified digital services. Or if you think more from a banking application, digital banking experiences, or unified patient experiences, all of these services are delivered using on the foundation of APIs or on using APIs, right? In a recent the connectivity benchmark report that MuleSoft does every year, we publish this beginning of every year. We publish this back in February of this year. We saw some interesting insights into that, right? Where a lot of respondents, 39% cited that they saw increase in revenue using APIs, as well as 49% cited that they saw greater agility across their teams using APIs, right? So we see kind of a lot of benefits of using APIs. I'm sure you all use APIs within your organization today to deliver some of these services. But also, what is happening now is with the increased adoption of AI, we're seeing there are increased threats and vulnerabilities. And let's talk about why that is happening. And I would say it's happening because of two reasons, right? First, when you look at enterprises on an average, sorry, not average enterprise, enterprises on an average use at least almost around 1,000 applications. Now, why is this important? The data which is important for you to deliver those AI services is in those applications, right? Because without that data, there is no AI service. There is not really any good AI. We're not just talking about using GenAI to draft an email, right? That's not the whole point here, right? That's great, that's good, but there are so many things you could do along with AI, right? But to do that, the data is in these different applications and needs to be and has to be connected in some form to provide that level of insight for your AI applications, right? That's number one. Number two is that almost 80% of organization use multiple AI models, right? I mean, as since it's started, we saw the momentum of AI in 2023 with ChatGPT and many more. We see that as organizations start adopting AI, they use multiple models, right? Now, why is this important, right? APIs were keen to connect and interface between different applications. What is also happening is APIs are also now becoming important to activate LLMs itself, right? They're kind of like becoming much more the most preferred way to interface with an LLM application, right? So as you try to interface with an LLM application, the the most easiest way to do that is through an API, right? That concept of API is not changing, right? So as you adopt that LLMs within your organization as part of your business services, uh, an easiest way to do that is using those APIs, right? Because using those APIs, you can now include that interface as part of your business application, right? Now, but at the same time, we know that Gartner already has an insight saying that 50% of the APIs are going to go unmanaged by 2025, right? Now, this in itself, right, on one hand, the data that API needs, your AI needs, is in this multiple applications, has to be connected. So you need APIs to do that, a way by which to do that. Multiple AI models, and to activate LLMs, more APIs are going to be developed. But 50% of APIs are going to go unmanaged. So if AI interface itself is now going to lead to multiple use cases, but at the same time also open up your organization for multiple threats and vulnerabilities, right? And that's something that you should be aware of. Now, how does that translate into overall API foundation, right? Again, another stat from Gartner, 30% of increase in the demand for APIs. Now, again, demand for APIs will come from AI and AI tools, right? Again, same thing I explained in the previous slide. And again, a data point from Gartner, like 30% increase in demand for APIs, right? Now, what is going to happen is as you start getting this demand for your AI applications, you're going to start developing your APIs, right? Now, The challenge that is happening is we spoke about API sprawl, which is more about API proliferation across your organization as you create these APIs across different platforms, cloud deployments, technologies, standards. You're going to see more of that with AI adoption, right? As you're developing these APIs to interface with those AI LLMs for your AI applications. And this in turn leads to multiple challenges, right? One, lack of visibility into all the APIs that you have that are used to interface not only with your business application, but now with your AI applications, right? AI LLMs. Second, undefined guardrails, right? No best practices or governance to access these AI APIs. Third, unsecured APIs, right, leads to security vulnerabilities. Basic things like authentication, authorization. What about that? How do you think about that, right? And then the last is lack of engagement with those APIs. When you think about different APIs that you develop, how do you curate these APIs in a way that you can actually get most value from your API investment, right? So these are some of the challenges you're going to now start seeing. I mean, similar with the APIs before, but now along with this AI application. So a way to help you is through what MuleSoft can do is with the MuleSoft API management solution, we provide you now the set of capabilities to help you control that API sprawl, right? Control that API sprawl even for your AI interfaces. For example, set of capabilities to allow you to discover, build, and catalog any API, ensure consistent API quality and security, control and secure access to any API, including LLM API, and engage and create those API ecosystem, right? So MuleSoft API management, as well as the Anypoint platform, provides you this set of capabilities to, on one hand, to connect those applications together, connect the data together, build those APIs, and also have the proper guardrails and governance to access those AI APIs, or also to manage and protect them, and to scale and reshare those APIs, right? Increase reusability for those APIs. So now that was the first step about how the world of AI is a world of APIs, and you need a foundation to kind of protect access to those APIs, right? So now let me go to the second option, which was more around second, or the third aspect was more around, okay, how can MuleSoft help you, right? How can the MuleSoft API management help you? So the first thing is about protecting those APIs, right? Enabling, I mean, the basic thing about how can you protect those APIs, right? When you think about um, in general with your APIs, you had that the whole concept about, okay, when you now create those APIs, you want to make sure that the right APIs are protected, governed, right? So now take that same concept and now you think about those APIs that you're using to access those AI APIs, right? As you develop those APIs, how can you protect them? So at MuleSoft, again, we provide now you the set of capabilities, gateways, as well as API manager, a centralized control plane to manage and secure any API, as well as APIs that is used to access your AI APIs. How is that? Different gateway options. For example, Anypoint Flex Gateway, which is a distributed ultra-fast gateway that can be deployed in any environment, right? In your data center, in your Kubernetes environment, in a container environment, as well as cloud providers to now help you now protect any API, right? Any non-Mule API, microservices API. But we also provide you a Mule gateway, which is an embedded API gateway within the Anypoint platform that actually helps you protect APIs built on MuleSoft, right? This gateway can be deployed in Cloud Hub as well as through Runtime Fabric. Now, regardless of which gateway options you use, you can be rest assured that using the Anypoint API Manager as your centralized control plane to manage any of these gateways as well as manage any of these APIs, right? So again, provide you the distributed management, distributed control, but with a centralized control to manage all your APIs. So a quick example of when you dive into the actual product, and this is something that I know Sue will go through this. This is like when you go through the API manager, this is the centralized control plane that you get, where you can use the API manager as a way to then configure and deploy multiple gateway options, right? All the way from Flex Gateway, different Flex Gateway across your environment to protect non-Mule APIs, as well as a Mule gateway to protect your Mule APIs, right? All in one place, right? Deploy those APIs, deploy those gateways, and then once you deploy, get metrics on those APIs, right? apply the security policies, but then figure out how those policies are being used, right? Get the metrics on those APIs, analytics on those APIs. Now take that same concept and now you say, okay, now the APIs are going to use to access AI, right? Or LLM APIs, right? Now, how can you extend the same set of policies to now interface and make sure that your AI interactions are secured? So this is where what MuleSoft has done is, our SE team has done is they've actually created this AI policies, which are like custom AI policies using the policy development kit that allows you to jumpstart AI application development, right? And you can start building it today, and you can secure you and manage using the same platform about API manager as well as Clicks Gateway. Let's kind of like go through that use case, right? So for example, right, we think this use case about say you have a bot, right? You have a bot application, you have an end user or service API or a sales API coming in from the left, right? As you're using that those end applications, and as you're trying to now call your LLM APIs, in most cases you're going to have a prompt coming in, right, for that LLM API. Instead of going directly to the LLM API, which again you can do it, but now the challenge always is going to be that how do you manage the credentials for that LLM API? Do you want to share it across your organization? Second is, how do you manage the token for that LLM API? A lot of times, with every token that goes, you're paying for it, right? And the third is, how do you manage the prompt itself? Like in terms of is the prompt um, that comes in, is that not being manipulated, right? So all this are going to be some of the challenges you're going to face as you start implementing APIs to access those LLM APIs, right? So now what you can do is you can put like a gateway layer in the middle that helps you with that. For example, an example here is about Anypoint Flex Gateway. You can do the out-of-box policies for client ID enforcement, rate limiting, authentication, authorization. Same thing you've been familiar with for controlling API. But you can also now do custom policies. For example, basic token rate policies for AI access. For example, when you look at the token that goes through LLM APIs, you can now say, okay, have a rate limiting for that, right? Second is, other one could be prompt guard, right? As prompts are being used to access your LLM APIs, you want to make sure that the prompts are not being manipulated to now manipulate LLMs itself, right? So there are different things available as part of the policies where you can do the custom policies for prompt guard, right? And these are not the only one. There are many others that we provide as part of the custom policies, right? So we create this as part of our SCD. They're created and made available to you. So again, just as an example of how you can manage and control access to those LLM APIs. So now again, going back to that product screen, again, same way through the API manager, you now see the out-of-box policies on top, right? Client ID enforcement, message logging. These are set of policies that you can apply. In addition, now you're going to get this custom AI policies about exactly the same thing, like basic token rate limiting or prompt guard or prompt injection, prompt decorator, and you can apply them to your interface, right? Including things like PII detection. So these are the set of how you can use the same set of tools that are available and extend them using this custom policy. So again, this allows you to now extend the policies and the gateways and the control plane to AI specific policies. So as you're adopting AI applications, or as you're providing the AI powered applications, this set of policies and the framework provides you now the foundation to now protect access to those AI policies. So again, just a quick overview of that here. So that was the first part, was about protecting APIs and anywhere, right? The second is about how do you actually govern those APIs, right? How do you ensure that you have the right guardrails for all your API interactions, right? You already are aware of our product API governance that we launched around 2 years back as part of our universal API management product portfolio. And that allows you to now apply best practices or rule sets for API design as well as development as well as implementation, right? It comes with a basic set of rule sets, for example, Anypoint best practices rule sets and many other ones, right? That allow you to then say, okay, I want to use this particular rule set to make sure that these are the guardrails that I want to use for my API access. Now, as you now design that API, implement that API, you will make sure that you get right, like your APIs now conform to those rule sets. Now, in addition, you're going to now get a conformance dashboard for continuous analysis of your API. So you will now know where how many APIs are governed, how many have active policies, how many are not conforming. So this allows you to now create like this now layer of a conformance across your API access, and you can extend this for your interaction with your AI for your AI APIs also. What's coming? There are two key things that are actually coming down the pipe, right? First, this is coming up not that far in Q4 is actionable API Insight. And what is this is basically out of box dashboard to easily understand the state of all APIs within any point platform, right? Or state of union of all APIs across your Anypoint platform. For example, this capability, when you apply to your org, will actually give you an info about how many APIs are being managed, how many are unprotected, how many are governed, how many are not governed. And what that metrics allows you to do is then say, oh, okay, you have this 10 APIs which are unprotected. Go ahead and apply those set of policies, right? Or apply a gateway. You have this 4 APIs or 10 APIs that are not governed. Apply those set of governance policies. So now what this ensures with the custom AI policies, gateway as well as API manager and actionable API Insight, it now allows you to make sure that your API foundation is not only secured and but it's also governed. So now you're using the right set of standards and practices to now even access your AI APIs. The other capability that's coming, and excited about this, this will be GA more earlier of Q1 of next year, is Salesforce API Catalog, which is powered by MuleSoft. Now, what this is about is APIs within MuleSoft as well as within Heroku that will be available in Salesforce in an easy to consume fashion, right? So, for example, now as you're developing agents on the Agentforce platform within Salesforce, you can actually access the APIs from MuleSoft itself directly, right? So as you develop those APIs, as you develop the AI interactions within MuleSoft, you can now surface those APIs in Agentforce, right? And the advantage of this is actually twofold, right? One, to upskill Agentforce, right? So for example, if you want to improve if you want to upskill agents to now have more newer skills, you can actually just connect to those APIs, right? Could be different things, right? For example, it could be buying behavior that is outside of Salesforce. It could be order shipping behavior that is outside of Salesforce. The second area that you can use these APIs is to action on those agent interactions. So if the agent now wants to action on certain things, so for example, now you're at a stage your agent now is being developed and your autonomous agent is running, and you're like, oh, you define those rules and say, okay, now at this point you want to now place an order, or you want to like change the shipping address, right? These are all actions, and these actions could be something as APIs within MuleSoft that you can call through the agent force. Again, two areas where the API catalog can help. Again, really excited about this, coming very soon. Next, third thing I'm going to cover is how to use these APIs within MuleSoft, outside of MuleSoft, to now create more value from that API interaction, right? How can you improve reusability for this API? How can you get more value from that API? And this is where the key aspect here is how can you collaborate on those APIs? How can you share those right? Not all APIs, right? You may have like thousands of APIs, but not all thousands of APIs are going to be the same, right? Maybe you have like this 50 APIs which are most important, and you want to make sure that you get the most value from those 50 APIs. So, right? So you want to ensure that those 50 APIs that you want to share are governed, do they have the right best practices, and second, those are also secured, right? So you have the right authentication authorization, basic thing, right? If those APIs are more for AI interaction, then you want to make sure that there is a right PII detection, there's a right token limiting for that, right? So you can tap into, so you can create, like, if you're aware of the API Experience Hub portal that we launched last year, you can use that to create an API portal and select APIs for further collaboration. Now, again, you can pick which APIs you want to include as part of the API portal, right? You can create a personalized API portal to share and engage with the correct APIs for that you can use for your API interaction as well as your AI interaction, right? So the idea behind this is that improving the overall API engagement for your APIs, right? So on one hand, you are able to now control access to those APIs, protect those APIs, protect access to those AI APIs. Second, you can actually govern, apply the best practices for that API. And last, you can improve the API engagement. You can scale the access to your APIs across your organization. And rest assured that those APIs are governed and secure. And and to summarize, a unified platform to manage the full API lifecycle, right? All the way from design and build using the Anypoint platform, connectors, built-in connectors, right? To now build those APIs, design those APIs, Anypoint code builder to now create using the next generation technology to now build those APIs, including Einstein to now use natural language to now design your API and build those APIs, discover and govern those APIs, manage and secure those APIs using the right set of gateways and AI custom policies, and then engage and scale with those APIs. Again, and then do this, right? Consumption and reuse, right? The reusability of APIs still holds true, right? How you can get more access to your APIs, gain more value from your APIs still holds true. So again, a unified platform, Anypoint platform that provides with all these sets of capabilities throughout your API lifecycle. Now, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sue to I kind of like went through the overall deck to kind of like give you a quick demo of this new AI custom policies. Sue, to you.
Samir, before I start, there are some questions on the
Okay.
chat. Do you want to answer them first?
Okay, sure. I think there's a question about I want semantic routing to LLMs. By Maxim, by decide ad hoc which LLM will answer my request better. I think you can do this using the routing mechanism within MuleSoft itself, I believe, right? So you could, I think we have some customers, so depending upon the request you get, you can then say, okay, go to this particular LLM. You can use a header and say that, hey, this request is coming, it is particular. I don't know how much dynamic it is right now, but you could use something like that. And again, Sue, please add if you have any other insight into that.
Yeah, so right now the routing is pretty descriptive based on like what type of API call you're making. So it could be like a post or get. And then, but we do have open source connectors called MuleSoft AI Chain that will allow you to, again, it will be pretty prescriptive, but you could use the connectors and connect to multiple LLMs within a Mule application, and then you could decide, okay, like when it's at a certain some type of request, send it to this LLM versus another LLM, and there also you can specify third-party systems or tools that AI can use and bring those information in. So, and then in terms of caching, we do have a policy for our gateways called HTTP caching, so you could use that policy. And again, you can also build it into your MuleSoft app if you wanted to.
Awesome, thank you, Sue. There was a question by Steve about the Salesforce API catalog, and will it limit it to a subset of APIs in Anypoint? Or so the question is more about will the API catalog be all APIs within Exchange, or you can say like only this specific APIs? I don't have a full answer to this. I believe it's you can select which APIs you have, right, Sue?
Yeah, so basically, once the feature comes out, you will be able to like specify as a tag in Exchange which APIs you want shown on the Salesforce side. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you.
Yep, and Ryan
Yes,
makes
Ryan,
a great point
thank you.
about caching. Yeah. Cool. So Samir, if you stop sharing, I can share
Yeah.
my screen. Okay. So before I get into the demo itself, I just wanted to kind of go through a couple slides. So first, there is an explosion of generative AI use cases, and often what we're trying to do is, build experiences for end users or different APIs to take advantage of large language models, often through APIs as the main vehicle. And often it's just prompt in, and then you get a response out. But then this kind of comes with certain number of issues. So the first is, it could cause security vulnerabilities. You might be sending data that you might not want to share it out to the World Wide Web. It could have performance issues as more people use or take advantage of this large language model that your company has procured. You might be running into some performance problems or bottlenecks. And then if you're thinking about it from the IT perspective, you don't really have control over what goes in this middle part. What happens when the prompt gets sent out, and then what data gets back in. And then you could also run into compliance risks as these the end user or the API might be sending in PII data, as well as companies data that needs to be stayed within the trusted boundaries. And then you could also have missed opportunities. So if you think about it from like tracking perspective, like how often this LLM is being used, who's using it, and what it is for, like all of that gives you really good insights into if you need to further invest into your AI applications or not. So in order to do that, I know Samir already talked about the gateways, but with both Flex and Mule gateways, it comes with out-of-the-box policies, such as rate limiting or client ID. But then for both of them, you can create custom policies, whether it's token rate limiting or decorating the prompt or creating templates or even centralizing management of API keys for large language models. You can all create policies for that. We do have some of these created by some of the sales engineers, and we do have blogs on it, so you could take a look and see what they have to say more in detail for these policies. But what basically allows you to do is you no longer have a black box. With the gateway, you're able to track the requests that come in, see what the errors are, or if you're using the policies, you can even block certain type of requests, so that if it includes a certain keyword, you could just block it so that it doesn't even make it out into the large language model. So this ensures that all of your data that is critical to your company stays within your trusted boundaries. So in this demo, so it will be recorded just for the sake of time, but you will be creating kind of our own version of an AI agent, or in this case, a chat website, where you would theoretically send it to your internal team to use instead of having them go straight and use like something like ChatGPT or Gemini that is kind of open to everyone, and kind of narrow the scope of what this LLM or this agent can do. And what's neat is that because this is all built within MuleSoft, if you are familiar with it, this is something that you could also build yourselves. So we'll be looking at two policies in particular, which is the LLM API key provider, so centralizing your API key management. And this allows you so that, as developers are looking into building Mule applications or AI applications, they're not creating a bunch of keys and creating their own accounts. And like, it's even for finance, like that's like a lot of work. So that by centralizing the management of the key. You're just giving them access to the LLM API, and then but one organization or one team just manages all those keys, so that you're not having like 10 or 15 keys to track and pay bills for each month. And then there's also the prompt decorator, which we'll get into a little bit more, but it kind of allows you to add on to whatever the prompt or the end user is sending in, so that it either gives the LLM some boundaries, or it enhances that prompt so that you are more likely to get what you want. So, all right, so we'll get into it. So we'll log into Anypoint Platform. And then the first thing we're going to do is create an API proxy to OpenAI. So this is API Manager. This is where it's kind of becomes that single source of truth, or a central repository where you can manage your APIs. And then in this case, we're using a Mule gateway where you can deploy a proxy into Cloud Hub 2.0, which is a managed service or runtime by MuleSoft. And we'll just be creating a new API that's AI proxy that's meant for OpenAI. And once it's created, you'll go in and so all of this will be based, but then you could also change your protocol and put in TLS if you want HTTPS. In this case, we're just leaving it as HTTP. And then in the upstream URL, this is where you put in the OpenAI's API URL to know that that proxy is pointed to this particular URL, which is meant for chat. So once this is deployed in Cloud Hub 2.0, we'll be able to get the URL or the endpoint from Runtime Manager of that proxy. And this is important because, as I said earlier, we're creating a chat experience where your internal team can gain access to OpenAI without having to go to the ChatGPT UI itself. So this is a Mule application that's been built out to create that Mule application, and we'll be putting in our proxy information as well as support. And then we'll just run it locally. So from here, we can hop in, and so this is the the chat that shows up. So let's say like we're asking a question like, what are the top 5 places to visit? Right now it's throwing an error, and it's because it's because there's no policies yet. So the OpenAI actually doesn't know what token to use or what key to use, so then you're not able to access it. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay, so from there we were able to add the key. So this is where you can centrally manage it. And what's neat is that if you need to refresh your key or change it out for some reason, that you just have to go to this one place, API Manager, to change out that token or that API key instead of going somewhere else. So now when we ask what are the top 5 places to visit, it should actually reply back with an answer. And then, but then, because it's kind of a generic question, it kind of takes in that world, like 5 places to visit across the world. It just makes an assumption. But then with the prompt decorator policy, what we can do is we can append the prompt information. So then, like we can say, oh, if the ask is about like certain thing or like places to visit, then just keep it within San Francisco. So then ideally, like once this policy is done, now when someone asks, oh, where should I visit, or the top 5 places I should visit, it should give us the ones from San Francisco. So let's try it out. Yep, so as you can see here, it gives you the top 5 places to visit in SF. And yeah, that's it for the demo. So just to close it out again, so this is what we've done. We put a proxy, in this case, in front of a large language model. So this could be a Flex gateway or a Mule gateway. It depends on how you build out your custom policy and what you're looking to use it for. And then by having this now, we have more clarity into what API key is being used to access this large language model, and then you can even define the prompt. So in today's demo, it is a pretty simple use case of just adding like, oh, use San Francisco. But as you can see, like you can build out these policies. You can also build out how like you want to use this application. Like think about it from your internal perspective. It might not be a chat interface, but it could just be an API or the proxy that you're actually providing to developers so that they can have access to this large language model, but then you have that control and visibility into how it's being used. So that's it for me. So Samir, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. So I think that was an awesome demo of how practically you can use this right within your organization, right? And I think kind of exactly like what Sue said, right? What she demonstrated was like real simple examples. You can take that and apply it to your use cases, right? Like what are those? Because those are not going to be, your use case is not going to be as simplistic like that, right? And there's a lot you can do. And with this custom policies, you can add this custom policies because the key thing, right? I mean, we've seen this now, and you can give us your feedback that as you start exploring this, the things that are very fundamental to API management itself, like managing an API, protecting an API, governing that API, discovering that API, I think stays the same. It's not changing in any way, right? It's just the way the interactions are happening with AI. You have to expand it, right? You have to expand like how adapted to those AI use cases. So for example, like the prompt decorator use case that Sue just mentioned, like those were not there before, but it's like, okay, these are additional policies, right? The token management for AI or the credential management was probably not there before, maybe in a different form, but it's something that often and on, as you start exploring it as an architect, you'll have to think about this, right? How are you going to implement it for your organization, right? Because you don't want it to be free for everybody, right? Like, hey, I have this token policy, hey, use OpenAI, whatever you want. It's never like that. It's never like that, right? There are always going to be guardrails, right? But how can you do that? So that's where what Sue demonstrated, what product capabilities we offer within MuleSoft allows you to do that. So again, this was like a quick intro as well as the demo of the solution. I didn't really have anything. I mean, that was like my last slide. I know we are almost at top of the hour, but do let us know if you have any other questions. Okay?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I love the title, Secure, Govern, and Manage APIs. So when I look at API management as a tool for securing and governing enterprise AI usage, two things come to mind immediately: safety, and the other one's cost. I would love, and I don't know if there's like a view into the policy roadmap, but OpenAI has APIs that let you determine your budget, right? And so does so does Anthropic, and so does Cohere. So I would love to see some, and I don't know how likely these are to come at some point, but I would love to see policies that can show me, well, policies to put limits on the spend as an organization, right? Per AI LLM, and then also policies to or maybe not policies, but analytics to see the spend,
Yes.
especially by client ID, right? If I could have it break down by client ID, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great point about cost management and how the policies can tap into those existing LLM cost model and bring it back as a unified cost model, right? Because if you kind of like going back to those questions, hey, I can connect to multiple LLMs because but each LLM will have their separate cost policies, right? And it's money, right? So how can you actually manage the cost across these LLMs, right? Definitely one thing. And then excellent point about analytics on each of those client IDs, right? We'll obviously, I don't have all that information, but we'll go back and build that material around like how do you actually go back doing
I
that.
mean, today we could do it with Policy Development Kit ourselves, but it's very interesting to hear from the actual product manager from MuleSoft that that's a possible direction for the roadmap.
Right. I mean, it's something that I think we are working on to see if how we can actually bring them so that they are much more out of box policies,
Yeah.
right? So then you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but it's taking some time. I think we are evaluating the requirements. So again, if you have any feedback, absolutely welcome. Like great point, Ryan, about the
Yeah.
cost and analytics, but please bring your feedback. Okay.
What one more question? I saw prompt modification happening on the request side. Do we have any response side policy work? Like when the answer comes back, we can summarize it or we can filter out content. Is that all? Is that available or in the plan?
I think it's there, right? Sue, as one of the custom policies was with respect to the prompt output, if I'm not wrong. I'm not 100% sure about.
Let me double check. But
Yeah.
I would say from that point, it would be better if we took advantage of the MuleSoft AI chain,
Yeah.
a connector, and build it into the application itself instead of doing it in a gateway because it will just take like more
More like a
resources
system,
to,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. So what you just said about feedback, Samir, maybe for the audience and for everybody here, if people want to do that, if they want to participate in this conversation with you about product direction, what are the channels and methods for doing that?
Yeah, so I think just as of now, reach out to me or Sue, and we'll figure out with the PM team what are the official channels to do that.
And
Okay.
what are the ways that my audience is invited to reach out to you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it
Sure.
MuleSoft Slack? Or
I think the MuleSoft Slack should work. Yeah, LinkedIn is also fine. Either way, it should
yeah.
work. Yeah, I
Great.
am on Slack. Yes.
I super appreciate you guys coming here
Yeah.
and showing us this Dreamforce and giving us the deep dive version of
Yeah.
the secure governing. It's an important topic to a lot of people. Like, how are we going to incorporate AI safely and know what our enterprise is doing? You know, it's one thing when it's just you on your laptop, and then it's another thing when it's your whole organization, right? With the credit card.
Absolutely.
So,
Exactly.
thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
Thanks
going to
for
turn off the
hosting us,
recording.
Ryan.
Yep.